this week's LOLC Securities Weekly Market Roundup. I am Megara Vijaymanna.
And I am Tharandu Amarasekara. This is the sound of profitability. According to the President's Media Division, Sri Lanka has focused its efforts on improving the current technical glitches in the Revenue Administration Management Information System, also known as RAMIS, in order to boost the tax revenues and also meet the 2030 digital economy targets.
Ongoing operation and local procurement process of the existing RAMIS was in focus. Identifying current shortcomings within the RAMIS system and providing appropriate technological solutions was also discussed. Measures are expected to broaden the tax base and make the tax payment process more convenient for the public. The key changes include minimizing tax irregularities, simplifying the tax system, enhancing tax transparency, and introducing point-of-sales machines for transactions.
Sri Lanka's government sector is pinning its hopes on further discussion with the US government after Donald Trump administration hit a 30% tariff, giving a disadvantage to the industry compared to its rivals.
Trump notified Sri Lankan President Anurakumara Dissanayake of the 30% tariff imposed from the 1st of August, a rate well above the 20% levy faced by one of its major competitors, Vietnam. However, the US tariff on neighboring Bangladesh was set at 35%, while Cambodia exports face a 36% levy. Tariffs on India, also a big US supplier, have yet to be made public. Sri Lanka's apparel exports to the United States in the first 5 months of 2025 were at $747 million. This compared with apparel exports for the whole of last year of $1.9 billion to the US and $4.8 billion worldwide. Further, apparel exports are the country's third largest source of foreign currency.
Sri Lanka's tourism sector has crossed the 1.2 million tourist mark for the year 2025, recording 48,300 tourists in the first 8 days of July.
This brings the year-to-date figure to 1,216,344 arrivals, a 15% year-on-year increase. An ambitious target of 3 million arrivals and $5 billion in revenue is set for the year. The country must attract over 1.78 million tourists, or nearly 60% of the full-year goal over the second half of 2025. India continues to dominate as the top source for market for Sri Lanka, sending 10,153 tourists during the first 8 days of July and accounting for 252,147 arrivals year-to-date. It is followed by Russia with 112,939 and the UK 112,762, with the latter also sending 4,860 visitors in early July. Australia with 3,310, China with 3,181 and France with 2,335 rounded out the top source markets during this period.
Sri Lanka Export Development Board and Sri Lanka Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association recently held a constructive dialogue in strengthening the pharmaceutical manufacturing sector with an eye on export expansion and overcoming regulatory bottlenecks.
Recognized as an emerging sector, the local pharmaceutical industry has attracted over 100 billion rupees in investment over the past decade, while establishing a production base of around 25 manufacturers. These firms supply around 15% of Sri Lanka's domestic pharmaceutical needs and channel over 80% of their production to the government's medical supplies division. Last year, pharmaceutical exports amounted to $8.07 million, reflecting a modest but growing external market participation.
And now it's time for the corporate highlight.
Sri Sri Lankan businessman Dhammika Pereira has bought 106.9 million shares of East West Properties plc at a value of 3.2 billion rupees.
This is approximately 77.4% of the issued shares of the company. Mr. Pereira bought 106,991,848 shares at 30.2 rupees each, according to a stock exchange filing. East West Properties operates over 100,000 square feet of warehousing space and 30,000 square feet of commercial office space.
Here is Thadindu with the ESG update.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has developed the Roadmap for Sustainable Finance for the time period of 2025 to 2029. This is built upon the initial version developed in 2019 and comes during a time period of rising climate risks.
Estimates show $4.2 trillion in global financial assets are at risk, while the World Bank warns of 130 million people being pushed into poverty without urgent action. In Sri Lanka, climate change is already straining agriculture, energy, and infrastructure. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka emphasized the dual threats to its price and financial stability, noting that climate disruptions can trigger inflation and non-performing loans.
Here's Megara with this week's international update of the week.
Chipmaker Nvidia becomes the first public company to top $4 trillion in value after a 2-year investor frenzy due to the AI boom.
Nvidia beat Apple and Microsoft to the $4 trillion mark. Apple entered this year as the world's most valuable company at just about $3.9 trillion before tumbling in recent months amid President Donald Trump's tariff turmoil. Nvidia and Microsoft traded places as the world's most valuable company in recent months before Nvidia surged ahead to reach the $4 trillion mark first. The US chipmaker has had a remarkable march to record highs and has soared around 21% this year thanks to its leading role powering the artificial intelligence boom. Nvidia's chips power the data centers that companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google need to fuel their AI models and cloud services, and AI investments are only expected to grow. Global spending on AI infrastructure is expected to surpass $200 billion by 2028, according to a market research firm, the International Data Corporation.
And that's it for this week's LOLC Securities Weekly Market Roundup. No matter what investment decision you make it with the right intent. We will see you in a brand new week.